Hello there, my name is the Met Enthusiast, and you're listening to the Nothin But Bricks podcast. Welcome back to the podcast, the very first interview in a while. I have a very awesome guest for you, JamesTheColetrain, who has been on the podcast 2 times before. I do want to give a bit of a content warning. We do talk a bit about death at one point in the podcast, so it'll be time-stamped in the description and on the YouTube timeline. So if that topic is something that's sensitive for you, then you can skip that part and just stick to the talk of brick filming and Lego. But yeah, JamesTheColetrain, for those of you who don't know, has a podcast called the ALP Podcast. I'll leave it linked in the description along with his other channels called Jameson, his brick filming channel, and JamesTheColetrain, his video essay documentary type channel. I highly recommend you go check out all his stuff because he really creates some really great content that I think a lot of people listening to this would enjoy. So, without further ado, here is my conversation with JamesTheColetrain. Alright, I'm here with JamesTheColetrain once again. Welcome back to the podcast.
Hello, how's it going?
So, it's been quite a while since you were last on, so I guess the first question is, what has changed and what's been going on since the last time you were on the podcast?
I guess what's changed is since the last podcast I actually did go through with it. I did do some brick films, but I just found doing brick films to take a ton of effort, and I just thought to myself like, man, this just takes so much of my time. I have to set everything up, and I bought this mic, basically this not a mic stand, but like a mic holder, and I got this Focusrite connector that you connect the mic up to. And I felt like I didn't really have any room to do any brick films anymore on my table. And I just sort of thought, like, man, it's such high effort content and really low reward. So instead, I started this channel called JamesTheColetrain, where I just make regular run of the mill videos. And I've just been doing that since I think like mid 2023. I guess in between mid 2023 and before then, it was mostly podcasting and a few brick films here and there. The brick film, it was probably like one of the weakest brick films I've done, but it's like my most viewed video I've ever made. Whether that's on basically on near enough any YouTube channel that I've had or been a part of. Pretty much my most viewed video, the animating like Headbound, it's got 16k views now. And that was like that had hardly any effort put into it, but that's just how it is, isn't it? You get your most viewed videos usually from the least amount of effort.
Yeah, it's always the video that you least expect that you always like just kind of, it's like a throwaway type thing, and then it either like blows up or just does way better than your other videos that you spend so much time and effort on. And I guess it's also like, it's weird because you assume like, if I put this much effort into something, then I get this much of a reward back. But then it's a weird imbalance, I guess.
Yeah, you don't necessarily get what you give. You sort of you get way more than you give, or you give loads and don't get that much. It's the same with JamesTheColetrain. My Skibidi Toilet video that got the most views on that channel, 1,000 views. But the other videos I put more effort into, the TikTok video, the Twitter video, and the collecting documentary I put a lot of effort into, man, and that only got 60 views. So, but again, I enjoyed making all of them. So it is what it is. It's just a bit like, man, I just took a few pictures of a few figures. Edbound did a line, and it was just a silly little meme video that gets 16,000 views, but then the collecting doc, heart and soul put into it, only gets 60 views. But thing is, at the end of the day, it's just, it ain't really about, I mean, if YouTube's your job, I guess it is about the views, but if you're just making videos for a bit of a laugh, which, I mean, I would like to get somewhere with JamesTheColetrain, ideally, but you know what? It's more so just about, like, the time you spent, did you enjoy editing? Did you enjoy putting the video together? Did you enjoy writing the video? Did you enjoy recording the audio? If you did, then job's a good one, innit? If you didn't, then I guess you probably shouldn't be making videos. Maybe try and stream instead or something else. You know, that's sort of the way. That's sort of the way I see it.
Yeah, I guess it's kind of in a roundabout way, kind of a good thing sometimes when the things that you're most passionate about maybe don't get the most attention, because then it kind of makes you it doesn't really change your perception of the project in any way. Like it doesn't have people kind of commenting like, oh, I liked this specific part, and then you focus, if you're doing like a sequel to the project or something, too heavily on what other people are saying about your original project, that you forget what your original intention with it was meant to be, kind of.
Yeah, I mean, getting swayed by views definitely isn't a good thing. With the if the collecting dock had blown up, I probably wouldn't have done a second collecting dock, but I would have probably maybe orientate my content around documentaries, which I don't think would have been good. Because obviously after that, I did a Twitter video, then I did a TikTok video, then I did a Skibidi toilet video. Pardon me, Skibidi toilet video, and even if the Skibidi toilet one got like a million views, I wouldn't have made a sequel to it. I just sort of want to make what I want to make, and I think that's very important because, as you say, if you just let comments and people influence you, and you just force stuff out instead of making what you want to make, it's not really the best. Obviously, you can do stuff to that sort of fits with your channel. If you've got a gaming channel, you might want to talk about some gaming news or do a gaming review. If you've got a Lego channel, you talk about the latest Lego thing, but you don't just want to do the same thing over and over again just for that number. You know, you sort of want to. It's best to do what you want to do because at the end of the day, your time creatively. You know, it's for most people, unless YouTube's your job and you're very successful, you're not going to get loads of time creatively. So you're sort of going to have to make the best of the time that you're given. You know, to make something decent.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it kind of goes back to what you're saying of like, if you do get so many views and become successful for just one thing, you might feel like you're kind of stuck in this kind of box where you can't branch out creatively to do what you want to do, um, because of the demand for the same kind of content again.
Yeah, I mean, streamers really fall into that badly sometimes. Like, streamers have to just do Fortnite all the time, or streamers who just speedrun a specific game. Like, some of my favourite streamers are speedrunners, like Shift, Purple Foundation. They speedrun classic SpongeBob games. Shift does BFBB, Battle for Bikini Bottom, and Purple Foundation does the SpongeBob SquarePants movie game. But just having to play those games over and over and over again on every single stream, I feel like you just have to have a real passion for speedrunning that specific game, and you also have to have an interesting community behind you who's going to bounce interesting topics in the comments rather than because if you're just in it just to get the best time ever, you're probably going to be quite bored and think, well, why am I doing this? But if you've got a good community behind you who's throwing the topics out there and making your streaming time a bit more fun, that's a really good positive thing to have.
Yeah, for sure. I think it's better to have like a smaller community that just kind of supports whatever creative endeavors you're doing, as opposed to having like a massive community that's kind of boxing you in to this one specific form of content that you might feel kind of stuck in, that you don't want to do anymore.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I guess with the speedrunners, Purple doesn't do it as a job, but Shift does his speedrunning as a job. But obviously, there are some streamers who've already made multiple millions, and they're still streaming the same game day in and day out. And you just think to yourself, well, you've got multiple millions now. Why don't you just sort of do what you want to do instead of worrying about attention or worrying about people's responses? At the end of the day, especially if you've got a VOD channel, which I think most people who just stream the same game over and over again don't typically have a VOD channel. If you've got a VOD channel and you've got all your old videos on there, you've got thousands of hours of like you playing Call of Duty. If you want to play a different game, sometimes if people are getting salty about that, well, you've got all that old content to watch if you want to watch that.
Yeah, for sure. And I think it kind of goes back to what we were saying on your podcast as well, where it's like once you're like at the point where you're kind of financially fine, like you might as well put more effort and passion behind whatever it is you're creating.
Yeah, definitely. Because there's no financial worry anymore. But I guess some people they either want to. I don't know. I feel like if you're not next level passionate about your projects and stuff, and you're just sort of in it a little bit for the clout, you might sort of think to yourself, "Oh, I can become the next Mr. Beast and get that rare play button." Oh, and you're just thinking about your clout and your fame more than your enjoyment and your content. I feel like a lot of these YouTubers do fall into that at times, or they can't cope when they don't have as much attention anymore, or people are like, "Oh, I miss the old," let's say Joe Weller, for example, or I miss this the old KSR, the old version of this person. And it's like, mate, when the thing is, when you get like, I don't know, Joe Weller, for example, he did his internet melts videos and used to fart around and throw people in pools doing WWE moves. And it's like, at the end of the day, do you really expect that bloke to be the same bloke years later after growing up, making loads of money, and wanting to do different content and not wanting to do internet melts over and over and over and over again? Of course, they're going to be different. Noel Gallagher, when he was on the dole writing the Oasis songs, all those songs he wrote, of course, they're not going to have the same passion and fire as the songs he writes nowadays doing his solo stuff. Because at the end of the day, there's a big difference between being on the dole and depressed and writing loads of songs and being fed up and not having a job and thinking, bloody hell, well, what am I going to do for money? And being successful, having 60 odd million quid in the bank and living the life of Riley. There's a big difference. Surely it's going to change your mentality and stuff, and how you are creatively, and just how you are in general, really. Because you are the elephant. If you go into a normal room as Noel not a normal room, but if you go into a room full of average Joes, you're going to be the elephant in the room. If you go into a Tesco and want to buy something, you're going to be the elephant in the room. Granted, Noel Gallagher can probably afford to have all that Tesco, Morrison, Sainsbury's, whatever deliveries he wants. But still, you are the elephant in the room wherever you go, unless there's just a bunch of celebrities all over the gaff.
Yeah, definitely. It like you're saying, you would grow and change as a person as time goes on, um, especially with fame and success and things like that, influencing the as well what you might even what the topics of the songs that you're writing are going to be about, or whatever kind of project you're creating. If you're like a movie director and you're or like a writing and directing movies, and then you become really successful, then your perception of things might shift, and then your writing and directing might be different.
Yeah, I mean, it's like Quentin Tarantino, for example. Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction are well different to his modern work. He didn't have the budget. It was a lot more difficult to get the actors together and do stuff. Obviously, I'm guessing most of the actors that hopped on to things like Pulp Fiction and Reservoir Dogs, it was more of a passion project rather than a project of, oh, we'll make loads of money from this. Obviously, Pulp Fiction did very, very well. If any of the actors signed up to any back end bonuses, which is when you get, let's say Samuel L. Jackson said, I want 1% of what Pulp Fiction makes on top of what I get paid for the film, and all the merchandise sales, everything, all DVD sales, it'll be doing pretty good because it made 285 million at the box office, and I'm guessing it sold really well on DVDs. Not really the same with Reservoir Dogs. I think the budget for that was like 1.5 million, and the box office was like 3 million. But still, it was a good film to get his foot in the door. Honestly, one of my personal favourites of all time, Reservoir Dogs. A banger film, but also one of my personal favourites. Really, really enjoyed it. But the thing is, obviously, I feel like he's never reached those heights since Quentin Tarantino, even though he's had the budget, he's had access to so much more improved technology, he's had access to all the advanced film stuff, but I feel like he hasn't reached those heights ever since. I mean, Django Unchained was great, and Inglorious Bastards was good fun, and Kill Bill 1 and 2, yeah, they're not as good as Reservoir Dogs and Pulp Fiction, but they're not far off, man. They're actually not far off. They're pretty amazing. And then the other two films I mentioned, Django and Inglorious Bastards, they're alright. But the rest of them are just sort of, Jackie Brown's decent fun. Haven't seen Death Proof yet. The Hateful Eight goes on a bit too long. And Once Upon a Time in Hollywood was decent fun, but a bit gimmicky and weird at times.
Yeah, I guess at a certain point it can become a thing of like just trying to maintain your presence in like the public eye by constantly making things, um, and not like falling behind or like losing people's attention, I guess. So you just kind of, again, like lose sight maybe of like why you're doing what you're doing.
Yeah, I mean, there's a chance that that some directors might feel like that. I mean, someone like Tarantino, he only wants to make 10 films, but Scorsese, he wants to go on forever and ever. Well, he wants to keep making he wants to keep making films as long as he can until he dies. Which I don't know. I just feel like you got to do whatever you're comfortable with. There's a big debate on if people should just make a few things and make them excellent, then leave them there because you've got a library of decent content or decent films or decent few TV shows, or should they just go on forever and they might make a few crap things here and there? I personally think just do whatever the hell you want and do well. I think do what you're comfortable with. Obviously, if you're making dreadful content or dreadful films and no one's enjoying it and everyone's saying it's crap, if you really enjoy it, I guess keep doing it, but maybe go back to the drawing boards and try and improve. But if you just made like one, two, or three amazing videos or films or TV shows, or if you didn't make a lot of content and people are like, oh, we want more. Maybe if you got some good ideas, why not take the risk? Why not take the leap? But deep down, you just got to do what you're comfortable with when it comes to creating stuff.
Yeah, and I think it might not necessarily be a bad thing if like Quentin Tarantino or Martin Scorsese do make bad movies like after making great movies, just because it kind of shows anybody that you can like still make something great and then still like have all that knowledge that you had going into making the first amazing project and still end up making something that isn't very well received.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're only human, aren't they? It's like Eminem. A lot of people love his songs from 1996 to 2005 and think the rest of it's not very good, at the end of the day, if making music, if making films, if making content if it was so easy to make masterful, groundbreaking content or films or music, then everyone would just do it and it'd be easy. It's hard to do these things, it ain't easy, and that's why it might feel like sometimes that some people aren't really, that they have a good period of whatever they're doing creatively and then it goes downhill a bit. I think the key is to not be too hard on people and not be too mean about their content. If their content does take a bit of a downturn, you can say to them like, well, it'd be cool if you did this. You could improve this by doing this, but obviously don't hate on them and be like, oh, the old you was so much better. This is crap. This is rubbish. Forget this. What a load of nonsense. I feel like it's not good to be toxic towards people just because their stuff isn't as good as it used to be.
Yeah, for sure. And it's also like what you're saying, like with Joe Weller and stuff, like the way people kind of grow and change. And then if someone's saying like, the old you is so much better, it's like, well, I've grown a lot and changed a lot since then, so I'd rather not have the old me be better, kind of.
Yeah. And I guess these famous people, they probably get so many people blowing them smoke up their arse. It's probably a bit more difficult to deal with. Obviously, things like that are difficult to deal with because that's just imbecile behaviour. Saying, "Oh, the old you so much better. Screw the new you." But I'm just on about like general criticism. Like maybe if someone said to Joe Weller, "Oh, you could have edited this video better, or you could have picked something more topical, or you could have done this, or you could have done that." I feel like that might be a bit more difficult to take on the chin because you've had so many people, blowing smoke up your arse and saying how brilliant you are beforehand.
Yeah, for sure. But I think kind of changing subjects now.
Sorry.
Oh no, it's fine. It's fine. What's your current favorite brick film?
Uh, Damn, bit difficult. Um, it's a bit of a cop out pick, but I'd say the Wee Goblin too. I really enjoy hearing Trenton's voice as the Goblin and having a go at Harry and having a go at everyone and beating people up and the Goblin going around shooting people. It's just quite good entertainment, to be honest. So it's a bit of a cop out pick, but I really enjoy Wee Goblin too. Currently, that's probably my current favourite. What would you say your favourite is?
I was watching The Cleaners again recently and just was kind of, yeah, I'd say probably The Cleaners just because I watched it quite recently, but Wee Goblin 2 is also quite good as well. And I I think the fact that so much time was spent on it compared to like just kind of 1 week, the like with the shorter headbound videos, I think is pretty cool because you could tell that it came from a place of like being passionate about creating it, and it shows in the video as well.
Yeah, the fight scenes, all different characters getting involved with each other. It's yeah, just a crap ton of effort put into it, for sure.
Yeah, definitely. Um, yeah, and I think as well with the cleaners, it was uh, quite. I was quite surprised at like how much I forgot, like how like the tone of everything was just so kind of on point the whole time. Like it kind of kept to the same level of quality the entire time. Um, and it was cool watching the behind the scenes video where they like showed the clips from the stream that they did, because I think originally they were saying they were trying to make it within the first 48 hours of uh, like basically like Thack put 48 hours, uh, and then um, they ended up taking 2 years to actually like finish it. So it was quite interesting too to see how it all came together in the end as well.
Yeah, I mean that brick film is just utter perfection. Really amazing stuff. But Mind Game, and I've probably talked about it before on my podcast, and I probably mentioned it on the two podcasts yours I've been on, but his stuff from like years and years ago, I don't know how he pulled it off in like all those years ago, man. Like, I swear, and some of the first videos he uploaded, I think were like 2005 as well, or 2006. Um, but yeah, I'm looking at one now to strive for fame. It says 30th of July 2006. Absolutely, just uh, how has he pulled this off in 2006? I mean, if you look at the start of the video, the panning's amazing. Um, the movement's brilliant on the figures. I mean, 2006, it must have been a ball ache to upload stuff and get stuff on YouTube and what have you. So it's a shame that is. I get why his older brick films did well because they were so next level ahead of their time that that people on the platform probably like bloody hell, Lego figures moving. This is amazing, and it's so the quality is so above pretty much everyone else who's around at that time. I'm not knocking the other brick filmers because most people at that time probably weren't anywhere near that level. There are probably a few, but they weren't probably making as many videos as he was. So yeah, it's just some next level stuff. While nowadays everyone's quite up to par with stuff, and it's more like licensed brick films which do well, while a lot of his stuff is original stories. So people might not really be the YouTube algorithm ain't gonna push it as much, even though the quality's there. The YouTube algorithm's just gonna do what it does and just push different things.
Yeah, I feel like back in like that kind of era of YouTube, it was definitely just like coming from a place of making things that you're passionate about and that you enjoy, because I feel like there wasn't much of an algorithm, so it wasn't really like, and the money making aspect too wasn't really a thing. So just kind of making what you wanted to make at the time, I think, was kind of uh, the main thing. And I think as well, it does kind of go back to what you were saying of like Mind Game being kind of ahead of his time a little bit at the time with like his animation skills and things, because people were also making brick films at that point, but I feel like they might not have implemented much of the principles of animation and things like that, and filmmaking techniques and different things. I don't want to discredit like older brick films or anything, but I do feel like there were maybe just less resources for people to kind of get a grasp different on all the different kind of aspects of brick filming and like how to improve at the time.
Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at pizza movies now, and obviously I thought his videos were very ahead of their time, but they ain't as smooth or shot as well, or the lighting's not as good as well as Mind Games videos. Obviously, there's nothing wrong with pizza movie stuff not being as good as Mind Game stuff, but actually, I don't like to say not as good because it was so hard to make brick films back then. Not on the same level. That's probably the best way to put it. Because I don't want to be disrespectful to him or anything. Because it's very, very. I'm sure that pizza movies wouldn't be bothered about me saying that, but yeah, it's probably very, very hard to do. So it's best that I say that it's not on the same level. But they were quite grand. Some of the battles were, and some of the visual effects were really great. Same as like Squad 42, that was made by Gareth Pugh all those years ago. The animation itself ain't really the best, but the how grand some of the battles were and some of the set pieces were brilliant, and some of the shots that he pulled off. Like there was this one shot with a rocket flying and the camera followed the rocket, and I thought, how did he pull that off in a brick film, man? That's insane. But yeah, I guess he's just a legend of the game, Gareth Pugh. There ain't a lot of British and Irish brick filmers, and I'd say apart from American Canada, it feels like there's actually not many brick filmers internationally. So it's nice to see a British brick filmer doing some great stuff all those years ago.
Yeah, it's cool that there were people who were kind of who did have a handle on kind of introducing filmmaking techniques to brick filming as well, and then establishing brick filming as more of a not just like Lego stop motion, but like films um, at that time as well. Um, yeah, I think it must have been way harder though with the lack of tutorials and things like that. To be like a self-taught kind of brick filmer at the time, I think must have been a bit grueling.
Yeah, for sure, must have been a ball ache. You must have had to, I don't know, maybe be fortunate enough to and have the work, the mentality and want and desire to maybe go into stop motion yourself, and you see all this clay animation, and or you work for like Robot Chicken or something, you see what's going on there, and you implement those techniques to your own brick film. I'm not sure how Mind Game learned all his stuff, but maybe if you have him on again, you could sort of maybe ask him like, how did you learn all this stuff like all those years ago? How were you pumping out bangers in like 2005? How were you so ahead of the game compared to everyone else? Because I don't know. I know he does work for studios now, but I think he's a freelancer. So I'm not. I don't think he worked for like Robot Chicken back in the day. But you never know. I wouldn't be surprised if he had done that. Hold on, I'm looking at Robot Chicken now when they came out. Robot Chicken Star Wars 2007. I wonder when they did their first actual chisel and gag though. I think it must have been earlier because I swear on Family Guy with the Star Wars specials, they were making fun of Pardon me, Robot Chicken. Oh wait, 2007, the Family Guy Star Wars specials came out. Oh, never mind. Right, I might look up first. Robot Chicken. Oh, 2005. So you never know. You never know. 20th Feb 2005.
Yeah, I think when I was chatting with him before, he was kind of saying he's mostly self-taught. So I'd imagine that he was probably, well, I can't really speak for him obviously, but I guess he was maybe just kind of teaching himself as he went. But yeah, it would be interesting to chat to Mind Game again and see what that process looked like for him in terms of like how he got better at that time when there was little to no resources on how to get better.
True. I mean, nowadays there's just so many tutorials and so much help out there. But back then it was all just, as you say, just, well, as I said, either working for an animation company or, as you said, self-taught. And I guess he must have just had some sort of natural knack. Maybe he just must have been naturally good and really thought things through and just was really passionate about what he did.
Yeah, for sure. I think having that passion and not letting like the views and stuff kind of cloud things. Like definitely for me when I was starting out. I mean, I was uh 11 as well, so when I was starting out, the videos weren't very good, but I just kept kind of pumping out really short animations just for the sake of like getting views, I guess, in the quickest way that I could. And then I don't think it was until seeing kind of Edbound's videos that I realized I probably should put more of an effort into the things that I'm making just for the sake of like enjoying it.
Yeah, I get where you're coming from there. I mean, obviously, it's easy to, especially as a young kid, to see all these big YouTubes and think, bloody hell, if I just title this correctly and spam stuff out, the algorithm will promote me. But the thing is, in the long run, if you do make not so good content and you purposely put in low effort into things just for a bit of views, you might look back on it and think, well, what was the point? Because the thing is, I know obviously people who are like 11 or even people like probably under 17 or 16 or whatever, they might not, if they're brick filming, they might not think to themselves like, what, they might not objectively look at the odds of becoming a brick filmer. Because the thing is, if you do what Morg, I don't know, someone like Morgs, all his daft videos where he's running around with his mom and Bull Martin and going, whoa, maybe that stuff can get big. But like brick films, it's so hard to actually make a living off of. So you might as well just make it fully about passion rather than trying to, become the next Forest Fire. Actually, even with Forest Fire, the only reason he was able to become a brick filmer was mostly because of the Duck Song videos. Obviously, he's done amazing work and some phenomenal stuff, but it was because of, just a bloke singing and forest animation with a duck song back in 2008. That was basically, I mean, 600 million views. There's channels who have 100 million views, and they in total, and they're making a living. So obviously, I know Forrest ain't making. I mean, he's doing well, but he's probably not comfortable because he puts so much money into his videos. I mean, he has to pay animators and stuff, and he spends so much time, and the sets are just like insane. So yeah, he probably ain't as well off as people think he is because of the amount of money he spends on the videos.
Yeah, definitely. And I think as well when he announced too that he had to kind of that he's planning on like stepping away from doing brick films because of the financial kind of aspect of things. I'm sure there's other reasons too, but my kind of takeaway was that might be the main thing because he was saying it is quite expensive for him to like the upkeep and things is quite expensive for him to be doing, um, and Lego is expensive as well. uh, but yeah, it's a shame that it's such an expensive upkeep for like when you get to that level of making professional level brick films with so many different animators involved and everything, and then the the return on investment might not be as much as what people are imagining as you're saying.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I suppose this is one thing. Obviously, I know I've said before. YouTubers don't really owe the viewers anything. They can do what they want. If they want to quit, they can quit. They've done their thing. If they've got fans, they've done their thing. We got fans have got to respect the creators' decisions. The only thing that made me kind of feel a little not sad, but like a little bit like, oh damn, when I first looked at it. I remember on the World of Brick films, he said about how he wants to, stream basically make brick films for the rest of his life, and I thought, damn, that's pretty cool because obviously a lot of people they might say, oh, I just want to do it for the next 5 years, or I might want to do it for the next 7 years. But obviously, it was 4 years ago when he did that podcast on the World of Brick Films, and things change, as he mentioned. Having 2 kids has made him think, I really need the cash. I can't. Got to feed them. Got to put food on the table. I know, as I always say, YouTubers can always go and work in Tesco, but you don't really want to think to yourself, well, if there's a more feasible way of doing things, and you don't, okay, well, I guess for America, Walmart or Target. The thing is, if there's a more practical way of doing things, and in Forrest's case, it's 2D animation, he might as well go for it. It's not like he's bloody making silly daft videos for the sake of it and saying, I'm packing in brick filming and I'm now becoming a vlogger and I'm going to vlog my life. He's blowing up Lego pieces and throwing things around and trying to become Logan Paul. It's not like he's doing that. He's still trying to create art. It's just 2D animation instead of Lego videos.
Yeah, and I think as well that when you see like how much time and effort he's willing to spend on like passion projects with the Lego videos, it does make me feel quite excited to see what kind of stuff he's going to make in 2D, just because of the sheer amount of effort that he always puts into every project that he does.
Yeah, the bloke's definitely going to put out there something with a crap ton of effort put into it. I'm trying. I think he showed a picture. Yeah, there's a picture from a month ago saying some examples of what transitioning to 2D might look like, and he put a few pictures on there. And yeah, he's looking pretty good. To be fair, it's looking good to me. The 2D animation. I mean, it's just 2 pictures, but once it's animated and moving and bouncing around, should be alright.
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to see what he is cooking up at the moment, and the Red Hood video, I think as well. It's cool that he is doing like a send off kind of video to his whole like Batman saga, kind of to finish things off, um, kind of, and not leave things kind of undone, I guess.
I mean, I'm a bit sad that Clash of the Dyad didn't get made, though. That's a bit of a shame. But I suppose yeah, he's still got it in his. Obviously, he's put that he's going to do the Red Hood video in that finale thing, but he's still got on his YouTube description "Movie in the Making," untitled Lego Mario animation, and Clash of the Dyad. But I'm guessing those aren't going anymore. Which is, I'm not really bothered about the Mario film, but Clash of the Dyad, bloody hell, that seemed like such an epic, and it's not going to get made now. It's a bit sad, but at the end of the day, creators owe us nothing. We got to respect their decision. So the only time I think creators might owe people something is if, I don't know, you're a patron and they keep saying, I'm going to upload soon, I'm going to upload soon, and you pay money month after month and then they're not uploading. That's sort of the only time I think you sort of owe your patrons something, like whether that's a thanks or a patron exclusive stream or something else.
Yeah, or like an explanation at the very least, I think can go a long way with like what you've been up to, why you can't create content for the people that are financially supporting you as well. I think um like at least for those people on like the Patreon, at least if I was in that kind of position of like not able to make content and still having like money coming in from patrons, I'd still want to, I suppose, keep them posted on what's going on so that they're aware, like, oh, if I am still pledging money this month, then there might still not be a video by the end of it. So I think it is important to an extent to keep people updated, I guess, that are financially supportive. But I guess, yeah, like you're saying, you don't really owe the viewers anything really. Like you can say as little or as much as you want to about personal stuff, or you can keep it very vague of like, I'm just too busy or whatever it is. Like, yeah, you don't really have to say much at all, really, if that's not something that you want to discuss with the audience.
Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing is just to set their expectations, really. So, um, if it's something that's okay to talk about, then I guess you can just say to them, I'm not doing a video for this reason. I've got a serious operation coming up. I won't be able to walk very well for a few months. I don't mean like a illness operation. I mean like you break your leg and you need. Obviously, if you've got a serious illness and you need an op, then obviously that's probably you can talk about it if you want. But I get why someone wouldn't want to talk about that. But if you broke your leg, that can still be a tender topic and upset you quite a bit. But it's sort of more. It's probably less difficult to talk about. So you can say, I've got to have a leg operation. I'll be back in 4 months. I just want to set your expectations. If you don't want to be a patron, that's fine. I completely understand. Cancel it until I come back, or cancel it completely, your choice. Or if you want to stick around, that means the world. But just to set your expectations, there probably won't be a video for the next 4 months. So I think the most important thing is just sort of setting their expectations, really, and just letting them know so they can make the decision if they want to be patron still or if they want to cancel their Patreon.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's a pretty fair solution there, because then if people are kind of asking, oh, well, why can't you, do like a video this month or something, then you don't really owe them an explanation. But as long as they are, as you were saying, like in the know that there won't be one, I feel like that's kind of enough.
Yeah, man. I mean, at the end of the day, like with brick filmers, as a kid, I sort of got used to like brick filmers just never uploading again without an explanation. Just never making any of the videos. Usually these weren't like the best brick filmers in the game, but they made some fun videos that I enjoyed watching. So I was a bit gutted that they just cancel and go out of nowhere, but it is what it is. So if a lot of brick filmers just said, "Oh, I don't want to do it anymore," I'll be a bit gutted. But I think, well, it's such a hard thing to make. If they don't want to make it, fair enough. Pardon me again. But like, if it's like Shay Frillis or the Act Man does game reviews, Shay Frillis does film reviews, and occasionally game reviews once in a while, or ranking game and maps and stuff for like Mario Kart. I'd be a bit more gutted about those sort of guys quitting, because I'd be like, man, I'd love Shay Frillis to do analyze this movie. I'm so sad that he's not going to analyze this movie because he's quit. But at the end of the day, I wouldn't be like, no, I'd just sort of be like, well, I'm pretty gutted, but it's their decision, man. They've given the viewers loads of content. It's their decision. I mean, to be honest, I've got to give Shay Frillis all the respect in the world for still continuing, man, because basically, it was early this year. He sadly, his brother, his brother, and his best mate were in a horrible car crash, and basically, his brother and his best mate were dead on the scene. And it said Shay Frillis was in ICU, and I actually found this out on a toilet break at work. And I don't want to get too personal about stuff, but past couple of years, 2022 was horrible. 2023, things that have happened are bad, but I'm sort of seeing my life clearly and coping with the bad things decently and trying my best to be strong and stuff. But seeing that after a bunch of bad things had happened, a bunch of negative things had happened in my life, I know it's not about me, it's about them. It's there that Shay Frillis is the one who's going through the worst of it. Honestly, my heart sank. I was on a break at work and I just saw in a Discord server, in a Discord group, someone put, look at this, Shay Frillis is in a car crash, he's in a ICU, his brother and his best mate passed away, and it's like, bloody hell, man. My heart just completely sank. I felt absolutely awful. Um, it was just like, oh, God. It was just absolutely horrible. But I have all the respect in the world that Shay Frillis did make a comeback to YouTube and continue making content, and it must be a good thing for him to do. I'm glad that obviously, that he isn't. He said obviously he is tempted to talk about how he feels online, but he said the best thing to do is just talk to a therapist, because discussing how he feels about Patrick sadly passing away and Chris sadly passing away in a tragic accident isn't really going to help things. But it really made me sick when I saw some of the comments in the basically after the news came out that happened on Twitter. People were putting making like Mario Kart jokes about him, those, his brother and his best mate dying, and it just makes me sick to my stomach. I just can't believe that these disgusting worms are just putting things like that. This is a person, that this happened to. This isn't some made up film character. This is real life, and I don't see why they're being so nasty and putting stupid comments on there like that. I mean, they won't, if it happened to their family, they wouldn't be happy with the stupid comments. So just I know there's scumbags out there making jokes about everything on Twitter, but it's just very very that was really upsetting. Straight after, I don't usually look at Twitter comments, but straight after it happened, silly stupid jokes. Obviously, there was a lot of "I'm so sorry, rest in peace, I'm so sorry about this, this is awful," but there was a few silly joke comments, which was quite disheartening and horrible.
Yeah, that sounds like a pretty horrible situation to be in. And then on top of that, too, to have like the public eye, some people saying those kinds of things, it must, yeah, I can't even imagine what that must be like. Um, yeah, that's pretty rough, for sure. Yeah, but I guess, yeah, it is like what you're saying. It's good that if he finds making content helps him through that kind of stuff, then you know, more power to him, I would say.
Definitely, definitely, and he still managed to make some amazing videos. I mean, when something horrible happens in your life, it's probably hard to get back on track and have the same fire that you had before and all that jazz. But his videos are still as amazing as ever. He hasn't, and if his videos weren't as good as before, it wouldn't matter because I think to myself, well, even if this bad stuff didn't happen, you got to think they're only human and they're not going to be able to make amazing content forever and ever. But pretty much all his videos have still been bangers, man. I mean, his Andor video was phenomenal. The Puss in Boots video was phenomenal. Certain things that that he ranks about the Star Wars films, like Star ranking the Star Wars movies by their C3PO usage. I mean, that's just brilliant because he's got an ongoing joke on the channel where he's ranked Star Wars by every single aspect apart from the films themselves. So like he ranks the scores, he ranks just anything and everything about the films apart from the films themselves. So yeah, um, pretty interesting, fun stuff.
Yeah, it sounds cool. I'll definitely go check it out after the podcast. Um, but yeah, that having that kind of outlet in a difficult time must be. I mean, at least for me, having some kind of outlet creatively, or uh, just something that I can kind of fuel, uh, or kind of tunnel emotions into, is always good for me anyway. So yeah, it's good to hear that he's at the very least able to find joy in creating videos.
Yeah, for sure, man. Bang on.
Oh yeah, so you for people who might not be aware listening, you do a lot of voice acting for like different people like myself and Edbound and other creators and stuff. So I was kind of curious what your favorite character that you've voiced has been in any given project that you've been a part of.
Yeah, brilliant question, man. I mean, my personal favourite, the one I had the most enjoyment doing, was definitely Thor. Ed Bound would get calls, me, him, and Zach to do calls, and we'd be doing the lines back and forth with each other. And it was just so much fun, man. And playing Thor in general, man. Thor in Infinity War was probably my favourite MCU character by far. So I just love, even though I'm just playing Thor in Thor 2011, I still think he's pretty much a great character. Him in Ragnarok, him in Ragnarok and Infinity War, I think he's the best. Well, my personal favorite MCU character by a fair bit. Really, really enjoy him in those films. And I guess in Thor 2011, he's pretty good. The Avengers, he's pretty good. Endgame, he's not the best, but you win some, you lose some. Dark World, he's a little bit he's not that bad, but just the film itself is crap. But yeah, I love playing Thor. But I think objectively the best one I played. I know, obviously, you just asked like my favorite, but I just want to put the objectively best one. Burger Man's pretty interesting because he's an original character from Edbound stuff, and he's just like a plain guy doing his job, and it's just quite funny seeing him react to all the different parties, the family were being like, "Oh, we're nature people," and you got the firefighter saying, "No, your baby needs to be a firefighter," and all that jazz. And Fez from the Spider-Man noir brick films, he's really good as well. He's got his own arc that he's going on. I know there hasn't been a noir film for ages, but that was still cool playing that original character. What other characters did I play? Have I played? I love playing. I love playing Santa Claus in your brick film. I just thought that was hilarious. Good bands. I really enjoyed playing Alfred as well. I wish people had. I don't know. I wish. Yeah, I just wish I could play Alfred more somehow. Um, I don't know. Some of the Jummy films have been decent fun as well. Voice acting and stuff, they've been okay fun. I'm guessing because of the types of videos he's making now, there probably won't be many, if any, voice actors in his films, because he makes different type of content now, which brings the views and the money in. So fair play, and it's very good, enjoyable, easy to watch content. So, but nonetheless, it was very, very fun playing those characters in Drummy films, brick films. Um, yeah, good laughs really. Um, I really enjoy voice acting. To be honest, if there was, I enjoyed playing Thor in Comindo's brick film as well. That was hilarious. And I was like, "Are you ready, kids? I can't hear you." Oh, that was hilarious. In his Thor 4 in X amount of minutes. Um, yeah, I just love voice acting, man. It's just kick-ass fun, to be honest. I'd voice acting like anything, it's great band.
Awesome, yeah. And do you think you would keep it going as like a career outside of brick filming?
To be honest, I did really try and like audition for stuff for a little bit of time, but I thought to myself, it's so much hassle, man, and you see all these different people auditioning for stuff. Because on the website I tried to do it on, there were so many different people auditioning. You could see all their takes and stuff. And I felt like I'm quite good at comedic voice acting, and there wasn't really any comedic voice acting roles on there, which was a bit of a shame. And I just thought to myself, like, I'd rather give it my all with the JamesTheColetrain channel than try and make voice acting a career. Who knows? Maybe one day if I ever got fed up of doing JamesTheColetrain stuff, type videos, um, I might try and do voice acting again. Like try and audition for a load of stuff. The only mad thing is though, like if you told me, years ago in 2019, James, this is the content you want to do, the videos that you're doing on James the Culture, I'd be like, well, me sitting there editing, keyframing, doing all this different stuff. That's not me. I'm more of just a articulation type person in the moment. I'm not the sort of person who'd sit there, write a load of stuff and say it, but I thoroughly enjoyed doing it. I didn't even think I'd be any good at it. I thought I was only good at talking on podcasts, and when it come to actually writing stuff down and making a video and putting it all together, that the points wouldn't be made as well, because I'm just felt like I was just more of a spur of the moment type articulator. But the thing is, the James the Coletrain content, I feel, is probably the best videos I've made, and I really enjoyed doing them. And so much effort goes into them. So when they go out there, I feel like, damn, I've made, even if it don't get many views, I've sort of made my mark to a degree.
Yeah, that's awesome as well. And I think those videos on the James the Coltrane channel are quite great too, with the editing and the writing and everything. And yeah, it's cool that like you're saying, you weren't expecting to enjoy it as much as you were, as much as you were. And it's just kind of mad how like you think that, like, well, one would think that like they'd end up doing one thing and being passionate about a specific thing or drawn to a specific thing, and then going through the whole process start to finish of like pre-production and then filming and then editing and doing all the different kinds of things, discovering what you like the most about it, I think is pretty cool. That it's always, well, not always, but for most people, it's kind of different to what they've originally thought when going into creating things.
Yeah, that's a fair comment, bro.
Yeah, and you also mentioned the Discord calls and things like that with when voice acting. What was that process like of like throwing ideas back and forth and kind of doing it in the moment on a call as opposed to like kind of sending it as a file and then getting feedback through text?
I mean, personally, I really enjoyed doing it, but then months and months later, Ed sent me how it looked in the video, and I thought, bloody hell, I did a shit job. I thought, God, I didn't do that well at all, man. Because it was basically like, Thor goes, when I was doing it in the call, I just went, what's going on? Like that. Which I thought sounded cool as we were going back and forth and doing it. But then when Ed put it in the brick film itself, and he sent it to me and said it's best to redo this. I thought, bloody hell, I did dreadful there. But obviously in the end I did a better take. It was like what's going on? Like that. It was a really over the top funny one. So as much as I enjoyed it, there was some stuff that needed to be re-recorded. I feel like it's fun to do in the moment. I feel like it's good as like a practice run. If you got some good stuff done in there, great. But I feel like the best thing to do is recording it yourself and getting improvements over text and stuff. Personally, I think that's the best way to do things. But I think as a practice run, as a creative practice run, and a bouncing back and forth, bouncing ideas back and forth, I think doing the call as like a first take and as a first go of the script is really cool. And you can always, you can maybe get some interesting ideas from other people and get some really good takes. But obviously, at the same time, you might get some crap takes. Who knows? So yeah, I think it definitely has its positives. Yeah, and it was a lot of fun because I thought I'd just be doing sending like lines and whatever. But Ed said, "Oh, let's do a call, me, you, and Zach, and do some voice acting."
Yeah, it's really cool to see, or I guess to hear about like that kind of process. Like it's an interesting approach that I don't think I've seen many brick filmers do before, of like uh, getting like live voice acting, like reactions and things like that, like in the moment kind of voice acting. I think that's it's an interesting approach anyway.
Oh yeah, because Ed bounded that behind the scenes where him and Zach was in a call, and he started doing like a Stewie voice or something. I was like, "What the hell?" That was like because our Stewie's like, "What the deuce?" and all that jazz. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, none of the calls that we recorded that I was on was uploaded to YouTube, which it's kind. I think it would have been good for like a second channel video, but I think for the main channel, you just sort of want like short clips and stuff. You don't want to keep uploading just reactions of things and little voice acting calls. You want your main videos to be like grand brick films and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think it would be a really interesting thing to see if like he was to upload those to like Patreon or hit the second channel or something like that. To I think I've just always kind of been fascinated by the behind the scenes of like different projects in general, and I think this that new kind of approach of like doing it on a call is also really interesting too, to kind of see how all the cogs fit together, and everything.
Yeah, man, for sure.
Yeah. Um. So, are you excited for any upcoming Lego sets at the moment?
Uh, I don't really keep up with Lego that much anymore. Which I guess if anyone is listening to this part of the podcast is going to be like, oh, boo, boo, what the hell? But yeah, I don't really keep up with Lego that much anymore. I might just look up Lego. There was this one set. It was this Coruscant set that I saw on M&R's channel. I'll see if I can find it. that was getting me a bit hyped. Obviously, I don't have the room for any more Lego, and I'm not really too bothered about collecting much more Lego at this moment. Maybe one day I'll like collect a few pieces that I want as like just collection pieces, and see if it looks cool or whatever, and display them and whatever. It's that's it. Coruscant Guard Ship Review 2023. I think I guess that's not an upcoming set. That's something that's out. But yeah, I really like that set. That looks pretty cool. The only thing that was a bit crap was the commander that they have. I just thought he was a bit weird, a bit odd. I thought the printing wasn't really the best, and the colouring on him, the white, the red and white looked a bit weird. But the shock troopers were great. The gunship itself was great. All the other figures were great. Really cool set. So that's what I'd say I'm most interested in. But I don't know what's coming out when it comes to being hyped for a set. I don't know what's coming up next.
Yeah, fair enough. I'll definitely check that out and put like a picture of it up on the screen for like the YouTube version and everything. But yeah, any final thoughts or anything you want to talk about before we kind of wrap up the podcast?
No, not really. It's just nice to be a guest on a podcast again. It's nice just have an open discussion about stuff, and yeah, cool to come on the podcast all these years later. Hopefully, in another year or two, I could hop on again. So I know, obviously, you and your sister are going to hop on my podcast again, which will be cool. So at some point, so yeah, that'll be. I know, obviously, you've been on your own, but you and her could hop on, and yeah, that could be a decent laugh. I could sort of try and we could maybe do it as like a brick flick and just look at some Lego sets and stuff and some Lego ideas sets and yeah, just have some decent bands.
Yeah, for sure. I think that would be a lot of fun, and I really do appreciate your patience with the whole illness stuff and everything, and not being able to do many podcasts for so long.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, physical problems are awful to have. I used to have my chronic back pain at one point was horrible. My hand pain when I curled was really bad at one point. At the end of the day, physical issues are just awful, and it's just sort of the hand you dealt, and you can't really do anything about it. So I think it is up to other people to try and be understanding, because years ago, before I had my own physical issues, I wasn't like impatient with people. But one of my mates has got arthritis, and whenever we used to go out and have a laugh as teenagers and stuff, and he'd say, "I need to sit down a moment," and I didn't have a go at him, but deep down in my heart of hearts, I was like, in my mind, I was sighing. I was like, But once I ended up having physical issues myself, that weren't getting better. Like my knuckle in 2017, whenever I hit with it, and I had, it hurts. So I had to give up tire boxing and stuff. Like I realised that people are just unlucky and they do have physical issues, and it's awful. And there were people out there who weren't very sympathetic with my physical issues as well. They were just like, "Oh, it's just all in your head, and you need to just toughen up your knuckle," or this isn't that bad. You need to do more movement and stuff. And it's like there were certain things I needed to do to make my back better than it was, but I guess a lot of people, when they're not suffering with physical issues that much themselves, they are a little bit unsympathetic and stuff. But I think that's definitely the wrong thing to do. I think we just got to be understanding with people. I feel like some people need to like push themselves a bit more and make the right diet decisions and lose a bit of weight and what have you. But I feel like some people are just out of duff hand, and we just got to be patient with them and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. I think that's a really great perspective to have on things. That it is kind of like outside of the person's control, and also that it is like that we should be more sympathetic, I guess, towards people with physical problems going on. Yeah, I think that's a good note to end the podcast on anyway. And thanks again. Thanks for coming on the podcast.
No worries, no worries.
Cool. I'll stop recording now.
Peace.
So that was my chat with Just Sec Pat. thanks again to JustSecPat for coming on the podcast once again. Go and subscribe to all his channels. They'll be linked in the description. And if you enjoyed this, a like and a comment would be greatly appreciated. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already to support me and the channel and the podcast, because once I reach 1,000 subscribers, I can become part of the YouTube partnership program, which means I will be able to start making money off of ad revenue from this podcast. So it would really mean a lot if you haven't already, if you could subscribe. And because I'm not earning any ad revenue at the moment, I do have a Patreon, which will be linked in the description as well. And if there are any other guests that you want me to have on the podcast that are brick filmers or Lego enthusiasts, be sure to comment that down below or send me a DM, and I will be sure to do my best to get in touch with the person mentioned and see if I can get an interview set up. So with all that being said, thanks so much for tuning into this week's podcast, and I will see you next week with another episode of the Nothin But Bricks podcast.